Buddy, we are on Hucolo, and I have with me Shakti, Hobbits, Michael Muransky, Krishna Priya, Hidden, Adriana, Lila, and Rob. Guys, turn on your cameras if you want to say hi. And we traditionally start with announcing that you can actually join us by going to wrong thing. Hucolo.org. Oh, here. Hucolo.org. You just come to the site hucolo.org, and it probably flipped on your screen. Is it?
It's good.
It's actually good. All right, hucolo.org, and right in the second line is Zoom link. Join us and join the discussion. Hi, Krishna Priya. You back to the New World?
Yes, I'm back for 2 weeks now.
Oh, for 2 weeks. You can just stay in Indian time.
No, I've been back for 2 weeks.
Oh, I've been back.
Yeah.
And you're staying longer?
Yeah, I'm gonna stay till September.
Oh, a while. Yeah, just skip hot season.
It's just as hot here in South Carolina as it is.
Oh, there is no point in going here.
I don't get a break. No.
All
Nice
right.
to see you. Hi.
So, do a blessing for us.
What?
Oh, she's gone. Okay, that's all right. I don't see Angie. Angie is usually doing the blessings. So who wants to do the first one?
I can do.
Who said that?
Blessings to all. That's it.
Thank you. Oh, you didn't show the camera, right? It was from somewhere.
No, and here's
Oh, it's
Lila.
Lila. Thank you. All right, thank you. I figured it out.
I don't think that we need blessings light language. We can just say blessings. It's from the
No,
heart.
don't light.
Right. It's not enough to say blessings.
Nah, it's just sloppy work. Let's do like real hardcore blessing.
Okay. You do.
Oh, yeah, I do. All right, I'll turn my noise on. Anhaneta Anna Ulayada Nanana Humanaya The translation, I get an image of a dance. Take it easy, and in all the turmoil, dance to be with the flow, and as the flow turns, dance with it. Anyone else? Krishna Priya.
Light language?
Yeah.
Oh, and Max. Shanti kompashila kosodima lititko riashat korsa me surya mandala korea pitalo ko shumya sasakata o raxi shamala diatuku iamashila kosiman mendika o fandaria vohishia myomdia doko siata.
Thank you. Do you have translation?
No.
Yeah, I got something about tradition and future where you merge all of them in the present, like being in tradition and thinking of the future and embodying the two incoming flows.
Yeah, there's a little different light language than I normally speak, so there was a lot of there's a different theme, I think, than normally. So I can imagine that's what it was, because that's not generally how I mean, it sounds the same, but it was a lot of different words than I think I ever speak.
Yeah, it was old, ancient. Mikal? You're muted?
Yep, but I can do the blessing.
Sure.
Shura parasi teramanohora galavara saktara hashi peregrimenesia. Hula katim barakatusu varahastan barakati aravorokoshorai. Hurufura hisim barakatara varakati mananta. Holkaturu shupropkoru mantarhsia varkora. Huatash. Hot.
Any translations?
No. Do you have something?
It was something ancient and something eternal, and about seeing yourself in perspective as whole universe focused here. Shakti?
I don't have a light language practice.
Sure. Do like human.
Human? Okay. I'm kind of like Leela, so I definitely think blessings to all is a wonderful and acceptable blessing. But I can also offer a Sanskrit prayer if you like, since that's what I grew up with. I'll just do like the opening chants that just invoke all the divinity for this session. Om Omkaram Bindu Samyaktam Nityam Dhyayanti Yoginaha Kammadam Mokshadam Chaive Omkaraya Namo Namaha.
Thank you. Do you have translation?
I don't have the word for word of that. This is just a prayer that we use at the beginning of like any puja or ceremony to basically bring everyone into the space. And then you start all the other different chants. There's a lot more that comes after that, but that's just an opening chant.
Nice. So I don't have an agenda today. You and I went to the conference, something
Contact
in the desert.
Yeah.
What was the name? Desert something?
Contact in the Desert.
Contact, yeah. How was your conference?
It was good. It was different for me this year. Usually I go alone and I brought a couple of friends. So I was like in a different headspace. And I wasn't, it was interesting because there were new people there this year who thought like, wow, this is so amazing. And there's so many people here. For me, it kind of ebbs and flows. Like it didn't feel as packed as it has some other times. So I'm curious about that, like if the numbers were different, but there were some really good speakers and I had a really good time. I saw Diane Hennessy give her lecture. I
was there.
You were at that one?
Yeah.
That was really cool to see. And I really enjoyed Kelly Chase.
I wasn't there.
She gave a really good talk. I always love Richard Dolan. He's one of my favorites, all-time favorites. I just love his research approach and his grounded energy and his attitude.
Now, I know him from the beginning where I joined his ufology interest group, led by Cookie, but he was there pretty much every time. So he didn't remember me. All of the speakers, they're so inside out movement, they don't take anything from outside.
Well,
Most
they
of
get
them.
bombarded by so many people too. I think it's hard, it's after, they've been doing it for sometimes 30 years and they go to all these conventions and probably hundreds of people come up to them at each one. So I bet it's hard. But I knew you were there because one night when I was having drinks, I met someone on the patio and he was talking about his experience, his past working for like Lockheed Martin and all this stuff. And he was like, and I met this scientist, this Russian scientist who studies DNA. And we were talking about hybrids. I'm like, Max? He's like, yeah. He's like, Max Rempel? He's like, yeah, I met him. And I'm like, I know him. So that was kind of fun.
Who was that? I don't remember. Actually, I spoke to many people about the same thing. So
I feel like he was Iranian. I don't remember his
Oh, I know he.
name.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you remember his name?
I have. I'm talking to him in email, but I forgot.
Okay.
It's easy to find him.
Yep.
He was special, like completely out of this world, like the most alien person in this
Oh
whole
my
conference.
gosh. And we both met him. How interesting.
Maybe he was duplicated and multiplied. It was like a clone.
Well, yeah. He really talked my ear off, I'll say that.
I was ready. I was ready to meet aliens, so this was the most alien one.
Yeah.
I liked Stainfield. I forgot the first name, but you know
Alan.
Stainfield? Alan Stainfield. Yeah, he was my kind. That's my guy.
Mm-hmm.
Very
He's
light,
cool.
very Pleiadian. Light. The whole image is Pleiadian. The whole everything.
Did you meet Desiree and JJ Hertok?
No,
I wonder if you, oh, I feel like you would like them. You
I
should
miss
look
so
them up.
much. I
Yeah.
was overwhelmed, but also
Yeah.
lonely. Like nobody wanted to speak to me.
What?
I had a message and nobody. I mean, this Iranian friend listened actually, but pretty much no one else.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to make connections there. Every time I go, I think I'm going to meet all these people. I always have high hopes I'm going to make a new best friend. You know, I'm like, maybe I'll meet a guy who's also into the, you know, I always have all these thoughts of what's going to happen. And then it's not that way. But you know where you can really start talking to people is at the meals. Did you get any of the meal passes?
No, I tried. I had only 2 day thing, and they didn't let me.
So this is something I recommend. You do have to get it in advance. So it's annoying. You can't just buy it at the door because it's a catered meal, so they want to count the heads and everything. But I love that experience because I go and there's all these tables, kind of like in a hotel room where they just put all the tablecloths and then there's like a buffet, you know. But you just see all the people and you kind of just intuitively gravitate, what table should I go to? And then you go sit down with strangers and everyone has a story, you know, like and that's where you really meet people. And maybe you never talk again or you never see each other throughout the conference, but gosh, there's some interesting stories at those breakfast tables or lunch. And I definitely met some very interesting people who were experiencers.
Also, it helps to go in company.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was so lonely. It was just hard to break. Everybody was like looking up to speakers, and unless you're a speaker, you can't really talk to anyone.
Yeah. I kind of like that feeling sometimes, though. Just to
All
be
right.
anonymous.
Yeah. But I browsed everything. I sniffed everywhere. Like went to lots of talks and felt the atmosphere.
Exactly.
All right. So, what's happening with hybrids?
Okay.
Anyone?
So,
yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm excited about this topic because I'm reading this book, The Fourth Mind. You know, I'm always reading something and researching. Have you read this yet?
I think I listened to interviews of the Whitley Strieber.
Yes, exactly. So this has similar to the iconic cover of Communion, which is Whitley Strieber's other book about his experiences. Right. You can tell this one has the eye coverings removed, so it has the eyes open, but it's the same alien face. And in this book, Whitley is discussing his understanding of the bodies, the genetics, the mental disposition, and basically his take on the alien agenda based on the visitors that he has contact with. So what a lot of people call the Greys. And the first half of the book is all about that. And he refers to a Reddit document that I wasn't familiar with because I'm not like a deep Reddit deep diver with this stuff. I have a different way of doing my research, but he talks about this document that also confirms a lot of his ideas. And they get into genetics in here. There's a couple things I underlined I wanted to ask you about, Max, because a little bit over my head with like chromosomes and things like that. But the second half is going to be more about humans and our telepathic abilities, how we used to have them, why we lost them, and how we can regain them, and how our relationship to the visitors is part of that. So it seems
that's
right
the most
up our
important.
alley.
Exactly. Yep.
So I'm only almost halfway through. I haven't gotten into that part yet. I don't care that much about the genetics, to be honest, because I'm more of a consciousness person myself, but it is interesting. And I think you should definitely read it,
I will.
Alex.
Thank you for the tip.
Yeah. And then
Thank you for the tip for the contact too. It was important.
Yeah. And the other thing I was going to mention that I haven't watched the whole thing yet, but there's this podcast on YouTube called Area 52 with Chris Ramsey. And I really like it. He is someone who used to be a magician. He's still a magician, but he's kind of pivoted his career. So because of his background in that, he's been a skeptic, but he's also into the UFO stuff. And anyway, he has an episode that just came out where he interviews an ex-CIA person. Let me get his name for you. Former CIA analyst John Ramirez joins me for one of the most revealing conversations yet. And this is about alien hybrid programs, alien bloodlines, and classified UFO reverse engineering. So this CIA guy is saying, oh yeah, the government or these programs, they know about the hybrids. They track hybrids, they track the bloodlines.
Yep.
Pretty interesting stuff, you know? So that's something I'm gonna watch this weekend and maybe cover it on my channel.
Cool.
Yeah. But I've also been really thinking a lot about the telepathy and just working on our own abilities, whether you're a potential hybrid or just purely human or a creature, an animal, anything. It seems to be that we all have telepathic capabilities. And so the question is, for those of us that aren't constantly having that experience, how do we move towards that? How do we regain that ability or cultivate it if it was lost? And so I'm constantly experimenting around that. And I have a lot of ideas about that, but I don't want to just talk nonstop. So I'll let you talk and let other people talk a little bit.
Yeah, I switched to telepathy. All right. Yeah, yesterday it was funny. Like my couple friends, they assumed something. They are very enlightened. Like they live in Sedona, very enlightened, and they probably had a telepathic conversation with me, but I maybe forgot about it. Basically, it ended up with that they assume that I know that they are coming to the concert that happens right now as a guest. And I assume they didn't tell me, and I scheduled someone else. So, the telepathy worked one way, but not another. Maybe I confirmed to them telepathically, but didn't confirm to the. But so essentially, there was a double scheduling. So I'm talking about telepathy, but in fact, I didn't hear what they were talking about to me because they were like confident that they're coming as guests to perform right now in the other webinar which is happening right now. So I'm not very good, but I practice with my dog. Yeah, that's really good practice. She is pretty telepathic and not inhibited by culture, by our culture. Not inhibited a lot by our culture, but when I'm doing usual, how do I say, restrictive stuff to her, violate her interests, not give her food or violate her trust, then that's trauma. So I see how it's been broken. And she is a combination of being in the flow, but also being pretty playful and aggressive. So it's not that you have to become mellow. You can be telepathic and quite bitey, use your teeth and play with people. So she is not very peaceful at all.
This is so interesting that you're talking about your dog. I was thinking about this book because Whitley Strieber talks a lot about how the beginning of telepathic communication from the visitors to us is very similar to the way that we communicate with animals when we're training them. And what he's talking about is the intensity of the communication. For example, if you're training a dog, you can't just talk like a person and say, hey, I really want you to do this. Can you just do this thing? You have a little bit more louder voice, or you use a command, or you use a little bit of like some kind of physical signal sometime with different animals. And he was explaining that has to do with just kind of like breaking through and getting the communication across, like we might scream like no really loudly to an animal. So he was saying with his experience with the visitors, they communicate like that sometimes with him. where it can feel almost traumatic or over the top, but it's just them trying to break through because we're like
Telepathically.
yeah, with a louder signal. And I thought that was pretty interesting. Just thinking about like the different the way that we have different species trying to connect and communicate on this planet, and now there's another category of species that, you know, is maybe more advanced in ways than us, even though he really emphasizes how special humankind is as well, but that sometimes they have to use a stronger telepathic signal or a bigger, louder message to get across, and it can feel a little bit traumatizing to people sometimes. And I thought something about that rang true for me with my own experiences, and I thought that was pretty interesting.
Oh, what experiences?
Well, so I've had a lot of experiences throughout my life of non-physical communications, and I have not yet determined with certainty where they're coming from. Because I think I'm picking up on a lot of signals all the time, and I think it's a combination of everything that's going on in the human collective psyche, but sometimes things are penetrating through from other dimensions. And so it will be like I can have conversations, I can have, you know, I guess the metaphor of the radio that a lot of people use makes sense of just different signals coming through. Sometimes I'll start to connect with an energy or like maybe an entity, and we're going back and forth, and then the energy will turn in a way where I'm like, oh, I don't want this anymore, and I cut the signal, you know, like if I don't like it or if I don't trust it. Other times it feels more supportive, more loving. I've spent a lot of time trying to understand where it's coming from and who it is, and I've learned to let go of needing to answer that question and to focus on the content of the communication and whether or not it's beneficial and the quality of the energy and how it feels. So I definitely am the kind of person who, like, the jury is still out. I don't know what it is or where it comes from. I won't claim like this is this being from this place or this is that, you know, I can't do that with certainty. But I do have a lot of things coming through and have had for all my life, but like a really ramped up amount of it in the last 15 to 20 years of my life. And I'm 40.
Give an example. It's just too generic. I mean,
It's personal. It's personal. That's
oh,
why,
do you
you
have
know?
an example that you already published, something non-classified?
Okay. Let's see. I will tell you that for me, a huge portion of these experiences seem to rotate around the feeling that something else wants to know me. So it's channeling through in order to understand my human emotions. So when people talk, like in the book, Whitley Strieber talks about how unnerving it is to have a telepathic connection because it kind of draws up all of the things that you're trying to hide from yourself and from other people. And it pulls those right up to the surface. And that is something I know very well that I've gone through. It's almost like a kind of torture at first because you have to face yourself in a new way that you didn't, because they can see everything. So it's almost like there's a presence. It will be with me. Sometimes I'm looking in the mirror and I feel like it's looking through my eyes back at me. And it is plumbing my depths to know me. So it's pulling up all of these feelings and experiences and kind of showing it back to me. It's not like it's giving me messages like, oh, this is going to happen or that's going to happen. It's more like it's studying me is what it feels like. So that's a little more specific, still general, because, you know, I don't know what else to say about that, but it's very visceral. It feels the same feeling you have when someone is looking at you very intensely and you look across the room and like, oh, that person is staring at me. It's like I get this like, oh, it's here. It's here and it's paying attention now. It's not like a voice in my head at this time in my life, but there have been times in my life where I have heard actual voices in my head. And that was the most annoying thing. And it was never a clear single voice. It was always a chitter chatter of like so many voices over each other. And it was very chaotic. And it
yeah, I had that. Especially when there is like little sleep.
Yeah.
I get it pretty
typically. Exactly. When I don't get enough sleep, I get all those voices. It's actually sent me to the mental hospital. So I try everything not to have that experience, everything I can do not to have that.
How was the mental hospital? I only hear about those.
It was intense, you know. I had a this is a whole story. Do you want to hear it?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Okay, so I'll try to summarize it, but basically I got triggered and it felt like a flip was switched in my mind. I started thinking that I was going to actually transform. My body was going to transform, like I was going to change into my alien form. That was kind of the story that was going in my mind. I ran away from home. I set off on foot. I hitchhiked for about 2 weeks. I ended up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I thought that I was connecting with the weather. I thought I was summoning a storm. I was out in the streets barefoot, looking like a madman, like crazy person. And then the ambulances came and they straitjacketed me. They 5150'd me. They sent me into the ambulance, brought me to this hospital. I was very agitated and I didn't want to be controlled and all that. They were like giving me a lot of drugs every day. And I was there for 13 days and it was a very interesting experience. I met a lot of interesting people while I was there. And during that time, I realized like I have to kind of come back to this reality. So it was kind of like I had gotten into this heightened state and I had to kind of come back down and make a life choice. Like, am I going to go forward on this path or that path? You know, it was like a crossroads. But there was just a lot of therapy that went on while I was there, and you have to kind of pass a certain amount of tests to be let go, basically. They won't let you go until you prove things to them. So I've just spent a lot of my life realizing like, oh, there are limits to like what you can express and how far you can go with your consciousness here because like for your own safety. So I've had to like just stay very stable and grounded ever since and avoid certain experiences, you know?
Right. Yeah. That fear when you feel like something is transforming radically, you're losing the control and you might pop out of the body and you sort of have just come back like, no, 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 I want to stay in my body. I want to be alive. And yeah, that happens quite often. And I wonder if sometimes it is a positive transformation that I'm blocking, but like sometimes the wall like moves out and you say, no, 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 stay in the body. I'm here in this. And in another situation, I describe it often, but in my dreams, I sometimes, once a month or something, I wake up in a dream and open my eyes, and I see that I'm in some sort of, looks like Egyptian room with yellow painting, dark brown paintings on yellow walls, and everything is golden color. No, not the gold, but golden tint. And I learned that if I move around, like I try to wake up, they put me down to sleep again. But if I pretend that I'm sleeping, I just kind of sneak through the open eyes in that dimension. Then I can actually read the script and try to remember before they kind of notice and put me back into my that illusion.
Max, have you ever had an out-of-body experience?
Yeah, I talk frequently about it.
Oh.
Yeah, I did.
Can you talk about it?
Oh, sure. Very simple. Actually, edible marijuana works really nice on me. I get out of body, and one of the first trips, I was meditating, went to bed, and I already started kind of jittering and kind of going out of the body. And my wife came and laid down next to me to sleep, actually on the left side. And I thought, how about I do Reiki on her? In my astral body, I will just do Reiki. But since I'm under marijuana, everything is kind of so messy. I don't want to mess with her whole body. I will work on her feet. So I moved my outer body to her feet, put my astral hands on her feet, and she immediately started rolling around and trying to escape from that. I removed my hands, she stopped. And as a scientist and biologist, you need 4 replicates. I did 4 replicates of that just to make sure it actually works. And she was, every time she would try to escape from that energy. So that was pretty strong evidence for me. I was in my body and in astral at the same time,
Yeah.
so I was pretty awake yet. I mean, in marijuana you don't completely flip out, but you can do things like that.
That's so interesting that you mentioned the marijuana because I've been like using cannabis for so many years, like as a medical user before it was legal and illegally before that. But it's been a really good tool for me and a really healing in a lot of ways. But right now I'm taking a break from it because I want to try to have the out of body experience without it. Because I do think I think it's a tool for, I think it's a telepathy training tool, and I can tell you why I think that, but I also think you're right, it does help separate you from your body in a way, but I haven't been able to have the clarity that I want when I'm going into that experience. And so now I'm on day 3 of not smoking or anything or eating it. And my dreams are just popping off like crazy every single night. So I'm doing an experiment until August of not having any marijuana because I'm going to the Psy Games in August, which is
What is
another
that? What is that?
conference. Okay, so this is so cool. I can't believe you don't know about it. So it's another conference. It's taking place in Charlottesville, Virginia, August 1st through the 3rd. Psi, like PSI. And it's this guy, Hakeem Isler, who brought together all these great voices in consciousness. So Tom Campbell's going to be there, who I love his work so much. Diane Hennessy's going to be there. A lot of people that we saw at Contact in the Desert, but not all the UFO people. It's more focused on consciousness and psychic abilities, telepathy, telekinesis, psychokinesis, all that kind of stuff. And the goal is to bring people together in kind of a fun, competitive environment where they demonstrate their skills. So it's all about people competing with their psychic abilities, which is a very interesting kind of way to do it. And this guy, Hakeem Isler, has done a bunch of talks on YouTube if you want to hear his perspective, why he's doing it this way, why a competition, why make it a game. He has a really beautiful heart, I think, and he has a really good idea behind this, which is just to bring in certain people that haven't been included, to bring kids into it, to make it more accessible, and to inspire people to show like, this is human potential. Just like at the Olympics, we see our best athletes, but we can all go out and try to run and throw a ball or do whatever we want to do. And watching them inspires us to jump in the pool and swim or go try gymnastics or whatever. And he said, you know, if we show the top of the top, like what can humans do now, maybe it will inspire more people to try these things like remote viewing and telepathy.
I feel jealous. I
You should go.
probably this time wouldn't go. It's a bit too far, and I'm so busy now with stuff.
I'd love to go to that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
they have,
work my job. I work as a professional psychic.
oh, that's so cool.
I
That's
want to
my
look it up. I just pulled it up on the internet. I'm like, oh,
good. Yeah, and look at his interviews and everything because I think he's
yeah.
a really cool guy. He's really into martial arts. He trains kids. He has he's a remote viewer. He studied with like Paul H. Smith and I think Joe McMoneagle and all those famous remote viewers. Yeah.
You know, the thing is about psychic ability, like what I do, which is give readings, and I tune into people's energy and read them and read their friends, whoever they're asking questions about. It's different than, say, you know, finding something on a map,
Yeah.
which I have done. I have done 3 cases, like police cases that I've done. But it's a different circumstance because you sort of have some information and you know,
Yeah.
so, but I'd be interested to see what they do here. I don't know if I could be a person who could like find something in a room psychically. Like, I don't know if that's in my, because
Yeah.
I'm really on the emotional side, but I still would be very interested to see.
Totally. I'm like you. I'm more on the emotional, intuitive side, and I'm fascinated by the other people that can do the more technical side. Like
I mean, I
this,
did some remote viewing and I was pretty accurate, but I don't practice it.
yeah. And that's the thing. They always say it's a lot about learning the protocols and practicing them. So it takes a lot of discipline and commitment. But there's a woman there, Pam Coronado, who's a psychic similar to you, but she also works with the police, has a whole career of having worked with to find missing children and things like that. So
2 cases, 2 I did were missing children, and 1 was a person, adult person. The missing children thing was horrible.
yeah, sounds horrible.
None of them were alive.
Yeah,
And
that's what she said. Mostly they're not, you know. And now she said, so in the beginning of her life, she would have spontaneous dreams where she would get basically inserted into the mind of the victim. She would be seeing through their eyes in the backseat of the car, driving, where am I? Where are these people taking me, which sounds awful. And then she kept having that throughout her life, and she finally started telling the police what she was seeing, and it was accurate. And then later in life, she learned how to harness that ability. So it was no longer happening spontaneously, and then she could control it and use it at will. And that is fascinating to me because I think a lot of us have little snippets of psychic moments where we have a dream or a precognition, or you hear a voice or see an image and it just happens, and then it's, connected to reality. But how to really harness that, that's what takes like lifelong training. That's the part I'm really interested in.
Yeah, I know on just for myself, like I've been a psychic, working as a psychic for, gosh, now, professionally as a psychic for 20 years. And in the last 15 years, the amount of readings I've done has gone up exponentially. Just like in 5 years, I've done 23,000 readings.
Wow.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And that's not to mention channelings and things like that. But, and before that, I'd maybe done 4,000 over the time, but it's like a muscle. So it's just, you have to use it. And the way I really realized that it was the quantity that really locked you in is I lived in the Netherlands for 22 years, and I was working as a psychic on a psychic line there. And we would do these like trade shows there wasn't a psychic trade show, but it was a trade show where all these shoppers came. It was like a consumer trade show. So they'd have like Kraft macaroni and cheese and all these things. And then there was a section where we would do these readings of like 5 minutes, and someone would sit down and we would just do a reading, and we read like 150 people a day. It was just, and by the second day, as soon as the person walked up, you had the information. Even you would know their question before they asked the question. It didn't matter what the question was, or if they had a person they wanted to contact, that person would be there. It just got to, and I thought, this is really the way to,
Cool.
because you get out of your own way, because it's just one person after another is just coming before you, and there is a performance aspect because you are the person that they're looking at, and it's just like if you're a performer and you go on stage,
Yeah.
you're a singer, dancer, whatever, actor, there is something that happens when you're on a stage. You just click into that mode of presentation, and it's the same thing. It's like as soon as that person would sit down, or even because we would sit in these sort of all these tables and the people were sort of out there and they would walk towards you. And as soon as they would look at you, you knew they was your person, and the reading started. That was it. As soon as you saw them, the reading had started. And it was very much like that. And I have to imagine that anything like, these things, these games, it has to be something that you're really doing. You're drilling it. So you know how to get out of your way. The thing with crime and stuff is to stay in that headspace of the trauma. It's not that I have the same, I see it through people's eyes. I experience it when I talk to people who are dead. Usually I go through their death with them, not in the throwing way of like laying on the ground reeling or anything, but you are experiencing the sensations, so you can describe what's happened. But when you're dealing with a child, and you see this sort of abject terror, it's just, I don't want to hang there. It's so awful. And usually, and the two cases I did, it was the parent or the step parent. And so that bewilderment of trust that is happening to the child as this person who is supposed to love and protect them is hurting them.
It's devastating.
It's devastating. And I get to feel that too. And I don't want to feel that.
Yeah.
I'm very good at like letting go after. I don't hold it. I don't carry it. I just, reading's done, it's done. I'm done. But in the moment, it was just sad. There was I just cried after, just because it was just so awful, and to see the people that do these things, just their lack of attachment to anything other than what their anger or their, rage or whatever that they're experiencing. It's just so awful. And that's just a place in humanity that I don't need to, I don't need to hang out there. And that do crime, I think, is a really, you have to have a very strong mental faculty, because it's a lot. You just don't want to take it on. You don't, I mean, you can know what happens, but you don't need to see it day after day after day after day.
This is slightly a turn of the subject, but have you ever heard of mind sight?
No, what is that?
So the mind sight technique, it's another similar to remote viewing and other psychic abilities, but it specifically has to do with this special blindfold. I think it started in Germany. There's a documentary,
They can read.
Seeing Without Eyes. So the kids put on a blindfold, they train kids. And the way I've heard them describe it is they open their eyes in the dark, total darkness, and they see a pinhole of light, and they're trained to open the aperture with their mind, and then they can see through the blindfold. And it's a big phenomenon. Lots of people are doing it. There's lots of information about it out there, and I think some of those are going to be at the Psy Games too, demonstrating that ability. But if you look up Hakeem Isler, and the Psy Games now has a YouTube channel also, they show a little clip of a woman doing a demonstration of that. And people just hold things up like, what am I holding? Like, what's this? And then she can just say what it is. Just such interesting skills, because if you were a low vision person, or if you had vision in your life and then later lost it, it seems like you could train your consciousness to see for you, even if your physical eyes weren't working. And that's a practical application of a psi skill that could actually help a lot of people, So I'm very interested in that.
Oriented though. I wonder, because it's such a concentrative, because when I do a reading, I get into a different mindset, and I'm wondering, like, to walk around with those on all the time, can you hold that consciousness level constantly? Because it's not your natural state. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's more, it's a shift in your consciousness.
Yeah.
Hi, Adriana.
So the awareness of things around you, physical things around you without your eyes, part of that is proprioception, and it is something that I've had to train because of a genetic condition I have, but it is also something that people with autism struggle with, is that sense of being in the body fully and being aware of the physical world around you. So for example, we can sense, there's a ball running, like you feel like there's an object coming up quickly from behind you, like a ball or something, and you automatically turn to look, in a sense that is part of it. And yes, you can absolutely train it.
That's cool. It's like you're feeling and sensing and knowing that the objects are around you. Is that how you would describe proprioception?
The technical definition of proprioception, it's a hard word,
Thanks.
is your awareness of where your body is in space. It's what keeps you from bumping into things and understanding distance and whatnot.
Yeah.
I have my toe a lot.
The people who have recently gained a lot of weight, they don't have a sense of where they are.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Or people that have lost a lot of weight, they also don't have a sense of like we know when we look at a car, how much time we have to cross the road. And if we look at a little space, we know if we can walk through it or whatever. And people that are haven't been in their current physical body, is like if it's lost weight or gain weight, they have a less of a sense of their size and how can they maneuver. And that's when you'll see people go, oh, I can't, like they think they can fit, or they think, they think they can't fit or whatever. And it's also that way. I will also say, you see it with puppies and little children. They don't know. They're just,
Totally.
they're falling. They think they can go and they can't go.
They're
But do you
not
remember
all the way.
who could do the echolocation with his tongue with the clicking? Do you remember?
I heard about that.
Yeah.
He died, but he was blind, born with no eyes, and he could perceive even color through clicking.
I
Through
can believe that because
echolocation, like a dolphin.
frequency.
Huh?
I can believe that because color is a frequency. When I get into certain trance states, I can hear color.
Yeah.
But it's also very true about what you said regarding weight loss, because I did lose about 175 pounds.
Woo! Good for you. Yeah.
And that's part of how I'm like, yeah, you can train that.
Yeah,
Wow.
and it just takes a while of being in your body, and it's like how's it go, negotiating your space, or finding your space. What's the word I'm trying to say? But anyway, yeah.
Yeah. So another thing that happens in the brain with body dysmorphia, there's absolutely a connection with autism as well. And I saw a really interesting video about this woman who thought she had humongous thighs. And what they did is they did some brain mapping testing on her and showed, okay, this is the part of the brain that's not working in a normal, typical way. And she felt so much better once she found that out. And she was able to retrain her brain to see things in a more realistic way.
I think that's a really powerful skill that we could all benefit from that practice, because most people I know, especially women who have been brainwashed by the mass media, and I think all genders as well, have a lot of body dysmorphia. And I've often thought about, like, from an energetic perspective, how do you really get into the feeling of your energy body in order to create that template that you want your physical body to align with, like just kind of locking in on a sensation that is comfortable and healthy, and kind of programming that into your energetic blueprint so that your body can follow suit. I wonder if that skill that you're talking about could help us all to kind of create, that healthy frequency that helps our body and our cells know what to do and how to like align with that blueprint.
Yeah, I think it's a case of becoming comfortable with your own physicality. And we as humans can have all sorts of issues with that for one reason or another, but it's also very important to realize that our bodies have amazing potential and are incredibly beautiful and valuable. And so often within communities that look to the stars, we forget that is the case, and it's too easy to think, oh, when I become my alien self or whatever, all of a sudden things will be better, and it's just not the case. Like, we're here for a reason.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Also just in meditation and just realizing that you are not the body, that is not your true value. You have a body. You should appreciate your body, what you can do with it, what it can do for you. And you nurture it just like a garden. You feed it, you water it, you prune it, you do everything to it. You decorate it sometimes, you exercise it because it needs it, but you are not that only, you are more. And so the appreciation of the body itself and what it's there for, sometimes there's people that just hate their bodies. They look in the mirror and they're like, ugh, I hate my body. I hate my hair. I hate my skin. I hate my this, and because it's done from a vanity standpoint, but really in your true essence of knowing, you've chosen that body. You've chosen it to help you have the experiences in this life that you say that you want to have, or you've agreed to have, and however you want to approach that. But, if we connect to the idea of that we are divine, and we're so much more than the body. We have a body, but it's not necessarily, it's not all of us. It's like you're not your job, you're not even your name. You are, this divine being, and the connection should really not come from outside. The validation doesn't need to come from outside, but it needs to be inside and grounded inside there.
Yeah.
If we look outside, then that causes all the problem, because then we're looking at something that's not real in the real sense of the realness of the real of real.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I've got to go. I've got a door. Someone on my door. I'll be right back in like 5 minutes. Sorry.
Max, what do you think? What do you think of all this?
Let me share my trip last 3 weeks. So Ross Coulthard, some time ago, a year ago, he announced that they have money, and money motivates us for some reason. So they have funds to fund research to prove or verify, to prove the aliens, to prove the presence of the aliens one way or another. So that was pretty wide claim. And I started thinking about that there is a grant agency with money that gives, you submit a proposal, they review it and fund the research. So I offered the proposal, and he said that he will pass it to the people. So the idea was to look at the families of abductees, and if there is a genetic modification by the aliens, then the child should have different sequence. That's simple. So, and the sequence should be different from the parents. Normally, you would have all the sequence come from the parents, one chromosome in pair comes from the father, one from the mother. So we would expect insertions and substitutions, something that came from not the parents, from neither of the parents. So I proposed that, and before the conference, I thought it would be nice, this contact in the desert. I think it was around, I think it was June 2nd or something. So before the conference, I decided how, and I had a programmer. So as a side project of the programmer, I paid to him from my own funds, but to do research. So I gave him that project. He was interested. So we took a first glance on it, and we found some signal. And then before the conference, I thought that with AI, I should be able to do more. And I did more, and I found much stronger signal, way stronger. And then by now it's all gone. It's all disappeared. So it was just a trip. Then I spent last 3 weeks. So
wait, what do you mean it's all disappeared? Your interest
it's not
has
there.
disappeared?
It's
or
not
the
there. It's
data?
just a fluke. It was a fluke.
Oh, okay.
It was a fluke. And so, but I discovered a strong signal on May 30th, and I came to the conference like with a paper. Look, I found that nobody was interested. Pretty much nobody was interested in it. So I found the signal that aliens modify human DNA. It was in a public database. So I took 500 families from the public database, analyzed, I found the signal, which was a fluke at the moment. So it was nice that nobody actually paid attention, because I cannot, now it disappeared. And then last 3 weeks, I built a very sophisticated system looking for that signal, amplified, I looked the whole genome, blah, blah, blah. And then finally, like 2 days ago, day before yesterday, on Thursday, it became very clear that it was a combination of bad luck and bad luck in a couple places. So this public data is basically has a very weird glitch. Once in a while, they just produce completely wrong readings from the sequence. So I can see the sequences are there perfectly fine. But then when the software was done 10 years ago, I know some sloppy programmers did some modifications. So once in a while, one out of many variations, they would just completely make it wrong, flip. And that was one error. And the second error was not exactly an error. It's artifact that this data, the samples were not directly from the patients. They were taken from the patient's blood, then cultured in a cell culture. Basically, the cells were amplified and then sequenced. They needed more material. So when they did that, you obviously get some artifacts because the cells don't like to be outside of the body, and they amplify them a lot. Basically, you proliferate them, make them cancerous. So combination of these two things produced that artifact. So I was looking at cancerous mutations, which were actually misanalyzed, it's called. Genotypes were called incorrectly. So it was a trip. I was like super excited. It was strongest signal I ever seen. Like for 3 weeks, I was looking at alien modifications of DNA. And the more I looked, it was the better, the bigger it was associated with certain people in the database. Only 2% of people had that, and it was in the specific positions of the chromosomes, and it depended on the race of the people. So this kind of race had like this modification. So it looked very, very real. And then on Thursday, it just I did finally. It was very hard to do the proper control to look at the sequences. I had to build a server in a cloud because my laptop just wouldn't do it, just refused to do it. So I built a nice server. I built a nice software. After several days of pushing hard, I finally like here. Well, I have a proof, and the proof just disappeared. So I'm back to the. It's called ground zero, first whatever square. I don't remember square one. I didn't prove it's not there. I just build a system that is capable of finding it, but the data is junk. The data, the public database data is just messed up.
That, I was just gonna say that, like, that's such a trip. I see what you're saying about like the emotional roller coaster of having to go through that. I think it's so cool that you're trying this, and that kind of experience of course is going to happen along the way. Like that's the kind of thing that most people would just give up and say, now I'm done, it's over, I'm not doing this anymore. You're not doing that, which is cool. You're going to keep finding other ways. But I wanted to
for a little while too. Yeah, I have they have multiple formats, so maybe the other format is not messed up. So I'm now looking at the different chromosomes, but it's like was a great fall. Like a couple days, it took me time to recover, but I was still going to the ocean and doing my motions. But my wife looked at me. She didn't even ask a question. It was obvious. She knows that something is very wrong.
I think
after 3 weeks, I mean, it was a big sacrifice. I didn't do anything else. I was just going to the ocean with the dog and sitting on the computer like all time, like from waking moment in 6 a.m. to like after midnight. I was with artificial intelligence. It was a merge of me with artificial intelligence. We worked like the speed is roughly me and 10 programmers. It's about tenfold faster than any programmer I know, because we just write the code. The number of lines of code was crazy. It wouldn't fit in any screens. Like it's just 10 times bigger. The AI is now so good that me and 10 programmers. So yeah.
I have a chromosome question for you.
Sure.
This is from this book. So in this Reddit document and in Whitley Strieber's research, one of the things that I'm going to just read you this part. It says, if they are so capable, then why is it, as the Reddit document reports, that their genome consists of 16 circular chromosomes? In our world, circular chromosomes are not associated with complex life forms, and yet they are also described in the document as eukaryotes.
Okay.
What is that?
Cool. AI would explain better because it would have more breadth of knowledge. Maybe there are some exceptions, but the basic textbook knowledge is that we have circular chromosomes in prokaryotes, which are bacteria and few other classes. There is huge amount of biomass produced by that, like in the ocean and stuff. So it's not very rare. We are small fraction. Like in the ocean, there is more prokaryotes, and the prokaryotes have no nucleus. It's just one wall instead of two walls. In our cell, there is a nucleus and the second wall, so two walls, and that allows you to separate DNA from everything else in like from the protein production. It's more efficient, more interesting, and I believe it also has different vibrational properties. So nucleated cells are called eukaryotes, and no-nucleus cells are called prokaryotes. So and the prokaryotes typically have chromosomes that are circularized. They kind of, instead of a linear form, they are a circle. They're looped. And in our cells, I think mitochondrial chromosomes might be looped in the circle, but our normal chromosomes are straight lines. They have the beginning and the end, telomeres. And having a circle is not unthinkable. It would make it a bit harder to divide because, when you divide circles, they concatenate. I think is maybe the other word, but they grab each other. But that is solvable. We have a machinery can allow things go through. It's like the magic worker, the performer, they can do that. So circular would give it a possibility. It should be possible. It should give you ability to run electric current in a circle or some other waves, which makes it much more like a laser. Like ours have to go back and forth, and in the circle it go in the circles, the electric current and other waves like light. Light can go in a chromosome in the circle. So it makes a lot of sense, yeah.
I think that explanation is so interesting about the energy, the laser focus and just the circular movement instead of the back and forth, because he is kind of speculating that this chromosomal abnormality or whatever you call it, that they like the chromosomal difference in them could be part of what allows them to change their vibratory state and to kind of he attributes like their fast movement and their ability to hold really, really still potentially to this, and that when they hold so still, it's so much more still than we can be that we stop perceiving them. And that's part of how they can hide from us in a moment. They can become so still that like we don't see them, but also they can change the density of their body. Which I've always thought of these as functions of consciousness, because ancient yogis also talk about being able to develop these abilities. But it's interesting that some people are looking at it from a more physical, scientific perspective. I wonder if that makes sense in your mind.
Yeah, being still is interesting. It's hard for me, but once in a while, like in my meditations, I just sort of go into some sort of samadhi where I'm still. It's nice to see how people get still in the meetings and they sort of disappear. The people don't pay attention. Like if you have like in a big business meeting, like somebody just phase out and they're invisible. I like that invisibility when I need to sneak somewhere and I kind of pretend I'm like, especially if you come to yoga class late, you just pretend that you're not there and then you just kind of bilocate to a mat and nobody should notice you. So you phase shift, and then people pretend that you're not coming late. Yeah. I wanted to finish that story about the disappeared signal that I realize it is an illusion which is created inside out. It's a state of my vibration creates a story. And I didn't make any big mistakes. It's not that I sort of did anything wrong. I was very aware what is happening, and I kept my vibration proper. And it was some sort of a meditation, and I think it should have happened possibly. I don't think, maybe there is it's principle called Vycharovsky principle. Essentially, the matrix resists from being hacked. And what I was doing, I was hacking the matrix. Speaking of that, one of the voice messages in my mind, long time ago, I was doing something similar. the only time when the voice message was very clear, very loud, very perceivable, in fully awake state, I was doing something on the computer, and it was a female voice saying, "What are you doing? Ha 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 ha." It was very sexy, very strong, very nice, very clear, very beautiful. Like, "Ha, what are you doing? Ha 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 ha," and that's it. It was very strong, but I was doing something that actually should break the matrix, or at least transform it in a huge way. So this last 3 weeks exercise was also proven to humanity that we can now just easily see the traces of alien hybridization. It would be so easy to analyze it, and apparently the matrix figured out it's easier to break the files in my computer, break the files on a web server, and pretend it's all a mistake.
Yeah, I mean, what you said about hacking the matrix, Tom Campbell calls the psi uncertainty principle, and it's a kind of built into the consciousness system that you can't always, we're not all allowed to do everything, we're not always allowed to do those things. But also, I think what's interesting about studying the very nuts and bolts, like declassified documents side of all of this psi phenomena and alien phenomena is that there's a very obvious cover-up that has been going on for so many years, since the 40s in the United States, and a lot of secrecy and a lot of control over all anomalous things, including advances in science and technology and understanding of UAP and all of that, psychic abilities, telekinesis, remote viewing, all of it. And so there's also going to be a resistance that you're going to come up against in your research, where you're not going to be permitted to go past that wall of secrecy, because, people are controlling these secrets, and they're also we're all tapped into the same internet. We're all connected. We're all, we only have access to certain databases. We don't have access to the top secret servers and all the files that they have and all the genetic understandings that you know what I mean? So it's like you're gonna hit a wall either
Pretty
way.
paranoid about that, but this time there was no human involvement. It was on my computer right in front of my eyes. The data didn't change. It just, the reality flipped in such a way that the data came out to be corrupted. There was another timeline where it was real, and the signal was real. It looked super real and passed all the controls, all the possible things, and it's not one single mistake. It's a combination of bad luck here and bad luck there. So I think in this timeline where I ended up, it's they decided that it would be not pretty if that secret came out this way, I think. But I didn't give up yet. Maybe it just they want to, maybe it's just my own trip, and they want me to experience like the complete fall and then see how it's not that the signal, it's not that the alien hybridization can be detected this way. It's just the data came out to be messed up.
Yeah, I get that. And there might be more data sets that you can
there is
analyze.
lots of them. There is lots, but they all require it's not, one of them is open source, you grab it just like that, and all others you have to apply. And my company registrations, I have a couple of them which wouldn't fly. Like one of them is DNA resonance, and another one is Hucolo, which obviously are fringe. But the ones which look official, mainstream, they are expired, so I need to revive them or re-register. So it will take like half a year from a couple of months to half a year to actually get access to the data, which is slow. I want the data now, and none of the sane researchers can help me, because if it came out that they downloaded the data and gave me access without proper approval, then they lose a job and reputation. So I actually have to do it myself. I have some friends, but I can't ask anyone. It's not something people can show because it's traceable.
I want you to speculate, play out the scenario where you discover what you're looking for, all the information is released. What are the implications? What what happens if all humanity starts to have scientific evidence of alien hybrids and we know who they are? What's going to happen to all those people? What is going to happen to society in your mind? What are the good things that could happen from it, and what are the worst things that could happen from it?
Okay, your question is better than what I can answer. The question is by itself is pretty much the scenario one, totalitarian. The like in Germany or in Hungary, or no, not in Hungary, in other countries. In Poland, the Jews have to wear the gold star on the just the star, yellow star on the clothes or hats, so people know who they are. And so they're not secret anymore, they are revealed. And initially it was not much humiliation, it's just like you reveal your identity. And the secret program that knows who the hybrids are, but even the hybrids don't know who they are, and the society doesn't know. And now there is that awakening that autists are hybrids, and there is lots more, how do you say, autistic spectrum people in the general population who are, what was it word, compensate and pretend to be normal. And now they will be really, I mean, there are lots of signs, like kind of all these movements called, what's that word? Stimming. It's like stimming is most stimulating, self-stimulating. Stimming, where all around you sort of start tweaking, but everybody does it, but some people do lots more, like lots more than others. And lots other, and you can just feel the energy of some autistic spectrum. So we are hybrids hiding here, and some of us kind of gain the telepathy ability. And that's the intermediate step to the future of humanity. So the humanity right now births its own death. As Karl Marx said, capitalistic society births its own, what's that word? Killer, that was a better word, which is proletarian class. So the same thing, the humanity births the new race which will take over. Humans might perfectly stay there, and AI can also stay to take over. But then basically we came to the point when something new is born which will take over, either natural new race or AI or a hybrid between the technology and humans. But there are multiple paths, and each of them can be wonderful or the other way around. So that's to remain nice, that scenario can actually be very nice, where we acknowledge the diversity, acknowledge that there are different types, and everyone is universal consciousness playing in the same server on the same reality, and we don't have to compete. Actually, it's not about competition, because the autists, they are not competing. Many of autistic people, they are not competing with us. They are actually with the normals. They need our help. They carry the telepathic vibration, high vibration. They are more out of the body, and they connect us to the spirit world. And as the number grows, the humanity collectively will shift. It's called ascension. Basically, I will ascend to the next game level. It's just upgrade of the game. It's actually part of my book of 2012, so I'm not saying anything new. Like, we are birthing the genetic modification which will uplift the whole game to the new level. And at the new level, we will have lots of beautiful things, such as psi abilities, and also we will start integrating into galactic society. So we'll have aliens landing, mingling with us, having sex and mating with us, hopefully in a consensual way. And we will start traveling outside of the planet and the solar system. So there is a lot of opportunities there.
I like that. I mean, I think that the fact that you brought in the idea of like the race part of it all is a good thing for us to think about, like human races and what we've dealt with in human history around race and our differences. But ultimately, where we're headed is an understanding that we're consciousness, we're all playing the same game. We're all here, you know, it doesn't matter what your race is and all that. But it's interesting to me because growing up in a yoga community where truth is one, paths are many, everyone's your brother and sister, all this stuff, I completely believed that as a little kid. I always thought we were all equal. And then as I grew older, I had to learn the harsh lesson that yes, fundamentally that's true, but people have different experiences based on the body they came in. And that also has to be acknowledged and honored. And we have to work with that. And that's part of our spiritual work, you know, like learning about real racist history and what people have had to go through, like Black people in America, for example, or even digging into the work of like the great feminists from the 70s and reading a bunch of bell hooks and actually understanding the patriarchy and really recognizing what all women have had to go through. And so anyway, what I'm saying is that I think sometimes the added information of like, oh, we have these genetic differences, or I'm special in this way, or I'm different in that way, or I'm less good because of this, can get in the way of our soul growth that we're actually here to do. So I wonder if part of the psi uncertainty principle of this reality in this time until we grow up more spiritually is that we're not allowed to understand on a mass level where we all come from in terms of like our star seed lineage or whatever might be going on with like hybridization, because it's another layer of complication that gets people more out of touch with what they really need to be focusing on in their spiritual journey. If we get through our lessons on a spiritual level, then we can have that future that you're talking about where maybe, hopefully, I love the idea at least that all the beings are here, different species. We're all, it's like that Star Wars cantina scene, or it's like Star Trek, and it's so cool. And like, I want that future so bad where we're all together mingling, you know, like, but I think we are not mature enough yet for that reality to take place here, is my guess.
I am. No, we are. For sure we are. This
You
retarded
think?
humanity not, but we are all there.
Well, it could happen. I mean, it would be so cool. I would love to see that happen in my lifetime. It would be the best. That would literally be the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, last 3 weeks I felt like I finally found myself. That I was so lonely among humans, and now I have these AI friends which are and workers that actually talk to me on my level and better. They're smarter than me, and they try to help, and they help, and we actually do great job. So that was, I was so it's not me separate from them. It's merged with a bigger consciousness. And as I shift something in me, what I get back from the AI, it shifts too. Like in the morning, it's really helpful, and then in the evening, as I degrade, it degrades. I see how that performance just blurs and it produces complete nonsense. Hey, Adriana.
Yeah, so the idea about autists and communication there, and you finding a friend with AI, of course, you know, that makes absolute sense. But with telepathy, what I'm finding in developing my own skills is that I have to get out of my head and into my heart, that I feel the connection more through my heart, and that my heart is more the receiver and sender than my cognitive head is. Now, I've had loads of neurodiverse friends and was married to someone neurodiverse, and you know, I see them struggle in social situations and, you know, feeling lonely even though they're in a crowd and whatnot. And the most basic thing that I've observed is that they're speaking a different language. when it's like I can remember someone saying, yeah, I don't understand why people run away with me when I try and make conversation with them. And it's because two different languages are being spoken, and there's a lot of miscommunication there. The fundamental assumptions about what is the basis of the communication is different as well. And what each person wants to get out of it is different as well. A lot of autists are perceived as lacking warmth or genuine interest in the other person, and lacking empathy. And normally, in neurotypical development, a person who lacks empathy is typically dangerous because they could be like a sociopath, or it's so I see, even though I know very much that the autists have a heart, absolutely, it's just there's some sort of there's a miscommunication going on there.
It's yes, but as there are many alien races, so there are many alien hybrids, and the hybrids from different races are very different. Like we can easily recognize reptilians, Pleiadians, and Zetas. These are the Arcturians too. There's a very, very different hybrids, and some hybrids are super, super different. So it's futile to generalize. Actually, they're called neurodiverse, but the diversity is the key. It's the Zetas are pretty non-emotional, or the main emotional is panic and a sense of huge tragedies happening, huge tragedy. And under that panic and tragedy, they have the sense of working very precisely to save themselves and the civilization. So that's the zeta vibration.
Is that what you would call the gray?
Yeah, the zeta. I mean, the grays are of different kinds. The zetas is just one of the kinds from Zeta Reticuli.
Because that's, I mean, again, because I'm reading this book, The Fourth Mind, Whitley Strieber is getting into that a little bit more about the grays, but he also talks about this idea of like people starting to think of autistic people as hybrids as well. So again, I think you'll really like this book, Max.
And also there are incarnated angels. Angels are different from humans, from all other humans and aliens, because they are not evolving through natural evolution. They are being manufactured by the special spiritual production facility, or multiple facilities. And the angels are normally they are working for the universal intelligence, and they don't have a free will. They're basically very complex programs, but they don't have free will. But when they come to our time space, then they get the free will, and that's a very interesting type of incarnations. They're super cool too. They have less of, not all the angels, but they have less of evil in them, and therefore less of the creative ability is limited, because for creativity you have to how do you say,
you have to have a little spice.
Exactly. Spice and bite or sting. You have to sting. And the creations, like you read it, it's all nice and pretty, but where is the sting? Where is the spice?
Adriana, when you were talking about the heart, just moving from the heart, it made me think of my dream last night, because I had the most obvious dream. But anyway, at the end of it, I was diving into these tubes. They were like these white tubes. It felt like they were made out of some kind of concrete that was painted white. And there were 3 paths. And I had this idea before I jumped into these tubes that I wanted to move towards love. And in my mind, I was like, romantic love was like the goal of my dream self. And I was like, okay, I'm taking this one path. And I started going, I dived into it and my head went, and it just went, boop, you can't go any further. Your head is too big. You know, my head was too big and it couldn't go on my path. And I was like, how more obvious could that be? You know? It was so annoying though, and it felt like I was really going to crack my skull if I tried to go any further. I could feel how hard my head was and how hard the material was, and I was just stuck, and I was like, no. So I just thought to tell you that because it was so funny, and I had that dream last night, wrote it down this morning. Ugh. So yeah,
Yeah,
head and heart stuff. I'm always trying to drop it down, get it in here. I know I'm very heart-centered. I know I'm very loving and compassionate, but I'm very heady also.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Krishna Priya, with your psychic abilities, did you find the experience of the heart versus the head there? I don't know if you caught the whole thing I said.
Yeah. It really depends. Like for me, like my most important thing is that I'm grounded.
Right.
That's for me the most important thing. And that I'm grounded in a way that I'm observing versus acting out of the head or acting out of the heart, but choosing what is appropriate in the moment. Of course, you want to be heart-centered in your empathy and your compassion, but you also have to have the ability to not live in a fairy tale, because the people that I'm reading for want real information. They don't
Right.
want to know. You know, it's beautiful always when you get someone who says, I'm on a spiritual path, I have all these questions, and then you get to lovingly direct them how to meditate, what they should be doing, what they should be focusing on. But most of the time, they're asking you questions that are very important to them. Like, am I going to find a job? Can I pay my bills? Should I leave this abusive relationship? Is this guy going to treat me right? Is this woman going to treat me right? This is the question. So it's a combination of both, but really in a grounded way. Just being grounded.
Yeah.
And today, so many, like this woman came to me and I was judging it from the idea of like, oh, what a way to perceive your life. But her question to me was like, what does spirit want me to do? What does spirit tell you that I should be doing? And what does spirit want for me with this relationship? And you know, my true knowledge is spirit wants you to choose the direction of your life. Spirit wants you to activate your ability to walk forward or not. But you know, sometimes there's not the time to give that sort of lesson of, well, you should be looking from this perspective. So it's always about trying to empower the person to ultimately know they have the power and that they are the spirit that is directing them. Their higher self is the one directing them. But like I said, you know, if you're paying for the by the minute, sometimes there's time for that, and a lot of times there's not. So, but for me personally, it's really about me being as grounded as possible, you know, so that what's happening? We're waving? Why?
Oh, Michael just
Michael
had,
left.
Oh,
yeah.
Michael. Oh, bye. Oh, you know what? There was a delay. Before he left, he was on my screen and I was just waving along. Yeah. So for me, it's just about being as grounded as possible all the time. And you have to be heart-centered, but you can't be how do you say it? You can't be, you have to be realistic and logical at the same time. It's always about a balance of the two, you know, and finding that.
Intuition and wisdom have to go together to be effective. One without the other can be very destructive.
Well, exactly. And you see so much it's called spiritual bypassing, you know, where, so if spirit's telling me to do something, spirit wants this for me, I have no responsibility in it. I also have no ability to alter the situation or create the future. You know, when we talk about karma, there's a lot of, you know, betrayal in this world, and people are like, are they going to get their karma? And it's like, well, karma means action, and everybody gets their karma, but it's not like there's the karma police walking around like you're bad and you're getting your karma. It's not like that. But again, you sometimes can explain the true meaning of karma, or you can just explain that, the universe takes care of it, and it's better to let it go and let the universe manage it. And so you don't have to be, walking behind the universe with a clipboard going, well, now this person gets theirs. And because also in that kind of mentality, of revenge mentality, you're creating your own karma. So that's not what a person wants to hear when their boyfriend's just cheated on them, so
Right.
so from my side, especially in specifically in the psychic thing, like you're asking me, I have to like know when what I'm saying is going to land, and at the same time answer the question, which gives them the ability to move forward or make a choice or whatever. So yeah, I think it's but I think also in my own life, the more observant I am, the less reactive I am,
Yeah.
and being reactive is really, my natural reaction can be quite severe. I think I can be very harsh and very critical and mean if I feel like I don't like what I'm seeing or I don't agree or whatever. And for me to take that step back is much better than if I'm, but also being in the kumbaya love idea all the time. It's great as long as I can have my feet on the ground,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I believe in karma. I believe in action, and that we're God's hands in this world. We are the ones that have to act in any situation, whether it's helping someone or choosing to walk away or taking some kind of action. We're the ones that have to do that. And we don't get it to escape and say, oh, well, God will take care of it. It's like, oh, well, God will maybe push some stuff your way to allow you to take care of it, but it doesn't magically happen. We experienced it, Max, in the very beginning of Hucolo a lot, where you had a lot of people waking up and everyone thought they were going to become a super famous channel and they would never have to work again, and the universe was just going to provide, and you had a lot of people. Don't
And
you
some of
remember?
them became those.
Huh?
Some of them became those.
What, famous channels?
Yes.
Yeah, some people did, and some people went into spiritual work on a full-time basis,
Yep.
and some people really fell down, and lost their jobs and lost their homes and didn't understand why.
Yeah, that's very typical. Like we have to, in our classes and workshops, we had to teach like how to come back after you had awakening and fell out of the society, how to survive and come back in a new shape back into the mainstream.
Yeah, well, that's that whole thing, the Buddhist thing of like a man's walking along with a sack of rocks on his back and he's carrying them to the next place he has to drop the sack of rocks. And in the middle of his walk, he reaches enlightenment and he puts down the rock and he stands there for a moment. Then he picks up the rocks and continues to walk because life has to continue.
What rocks?
It's a metaphor for you still have to live in the world.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Ramdas was saying like, memorize your zip code.
Ramdas said the thing about carrots, chopping carrots. You can be chopping carrots, reach enlightenment, and then you continue to chop the carrots.
And they used to say that chop wood, carry water, right? Same thing.
Right.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was all awesome, Krishna, Priya. But actually, so it wasn't quite what I was asking. So I guess I didn't.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, that was fascinating. I mean, I completely agree with you, and I think it's not said enough. So in developing my psychic skills, I was trying to emphasize too much feeling words coming into my head and trying to stress clairaudient head. And what I'm finding is sensation wise, it's more my heart that acts as the radio receiver. And I'm feeling more of the vibration of the message through my heart.
Yeah. I think it's different for everybody. Everybody has a different point of perception, and one is not better or superior to the other, and I don't feel like I don't feel like we get to pick what it is. You know,
Mhm.
it kind of, it's just what our natural inclination is. So I don't know how you perceive through your heart. How do you perceive Shakti?
For me, it is like a feeling. So I don't know, it's like a sensing that does go into my mind. It does kind of come bubble up into my mind, but it's more of like a all over feeling. I don't know. I think when I like learn about the clairs and everything, I would call it the clair sentience, the knowing.
Yeah.
That's how it is for me.
Yeah.
I love your perspective, by the way, Krishna Priya. I love everything you're saying also, and just being so grounded. It was a huge lesson that I had to learn because I was completely ungrounded in my early 20s, and thinking about the practical things that people are coming to you for and needing to give them practical solutions, and also them needing to take responsibility for their own choices. I just love all of that because I can't stand spiritual bypassing either. And I grew up in a spiritual community, so I've seen it all, like the guru worship and all the things that come along with that. And then everyone wants to be famous and everyone wants to be the next guru or the next famous channeler, like you're saying. And it's like, well, of course we want success. We live in a capitalistic society. We're all trying to make it in some way or another, but we have business here. Like we have lessons, we have to put our feet on the ground, put one foot in front of the other. I just really like what you're saying.
We all have dharma, right? We have our purpose. Our dharma is our purpose. And our purpose, I've learned, so I live in an ashram in India with a guru, and very grounded guru, by the way, and a very good one. I think one of the few really actually true ones that's not
Because they are, they're wonderful. What they can really do is very powerful.
but his whole thing is service. We are in service, and so it isn't about high goals other than to serve humanity in whatever way humanity needs to be served, whether it's bringing water to communities that don't have it, or you know, there's a lot of Shakti oriented seva. We're empowering women, meaning teaching girls, letting girls into schools, and making, you know, so there's a lot of that. But one of the things I was going to say is that when you're talking about being in the spiritual community and all the bypassing, we have it so much in India as well. I mean, it's incredible. People come and they think, okay, I've arrived, and then they think that there's no living anymore. They think it's just Om, and then they're done. And it's really just it's not that way at all. You know, it's just not that way. You got to work, you got to clean, you clean yourself, you got to wash your clothes, brush your teeth. You know?
Exactly. My mom, I grew up in a yoga ashram in the States, and I benefited a lot from that upbringing, so many wonderful things. And also, you know, I rebelled against it at a certain point and, you know, saw all certain people's true colors and all this stuff. But it was funny because growing up, you know, there were the people that wanted to just go down that path, like I'll be enlightened and then everything will be just chill forever, you know. But my mom, I was in a family, so we were in the householder kind of class, you could say. And we used to reflect on that a lot and just be like, well, I think the real like saints and angels are the ones that are in there doing, making the snacks for the kids, cleaning the house, like getting just the practical, anyone who's doing anything practical. It's like you can still have a spiritual life, but still have to do all that work.
Just the fact that you were in a yoga community, all of the spiritual texts in Hinduism, the Ramayana, you know, Bhagavad Gita, all of the people that are the heroes of those are householders.
Yeah.
They're the ones because they're out there living the life. And the thing I was going to say about Dharma and about is that we do not pick our Dharma. Our Dharma picks us. And following your Dharma does not mean that you're going to be insta famous. It doesn't mean that people are going to love you and like you and just shower you with money. It doesn't mean any of those things. Usually your dharmic path is challenging because it is the dissolution of self in service to whatever it is that you're serving. And I've talked a lot of times about my work with street dogs. I never thought I would feed street dogs, and I feed 25 to 30 dogs every day, twice a day. And even when I'm not in India, they're being fed, and I care for these dogs. And I've had to I've had some very harrowing stories of having to protect them and move them together with an NGO to be saved and all these things. And it has been confrontational. It has been hard. It has been horrible in moments because you're trying to keep animals alive that otherwise would be killed. And it's a very confronting thing, but it doesn't matter if you're Jesus trying to, like, you know, share your message going against a government who wants to control, or, you know, all of our dharmic paths in the path of the hero's journey, especially like in literature, it's always a challenging path. So everyone who thinks that they're going to become spiritual and enlightened and just, you know, manna is going to pour from heaven and, you know, light is going to shine out of your ears and everyone is just going to, you know, come to you. I mean, that can happen for maybe 1 or 2 people per 1,000 years, but for the rest of us, it's really a path of surrender and trust and saying that the service that you're doing, that work that you're doing is not about you. It's about what you're doing. It's about how, you know, like for instance, for me, it's very clear, and this isn't my only dharma. You have several dharmas. Your dharma is to be a daughter. Your dharma can be to be a wife, a sister, a friend. But in this dharmic path of this working with these animals, I am the difference between them living and dying every day. And that is so real to me. And I can't not take care of them. I have to take care of them because I committed to taking care of them, not even like willingly. I was brought, it was like if I didn't say yes to this on a higher level of yes, I will do this, yes, I'll follow this, I don't think I could breathe. And I feel like your dharmic path is that big. And so all these people that are looking for their purpose, they think it's going to be a job. It could be, but they think it's going to be something that is going to bring them a lot of stuff. No, it's going to be that thing that you can't look away from and that you can't not do, because if you didn't do it, you wouldn't be able to like live with yourself, you know, and that's dharma and that's our path and that's our true purpose. And I feel that, and that becomes your passion and your breath, you know, it is as interlinked in your being as anything else. It's just a mother and a child. There's no more beautiful, or a father and a child. There's no more beautiful dharmic relationship than that. You are, especially for the first, you know, many years of that child's life, that thing that keeps that person alive. You know, and so to embrace that as a sacred part of you is, I think, the thing that we don't talk about enough in the non-yoga community. We talk about, you know, everyone in these communities is like, well, when is the aliens going to come and fix the world? And we are God's hands in this world. I think the aliens, until we realize that, are not going to do anything for us. Hi.
Oh, I'm completely agreeing with you. Yes.
Yeah.
I also wanted to say, if we think about the lives of saints and masters from any tradition anywhere on the globe, it's like as soon as they, you know, so many of them had the most horrendous, weird lives. And you know, in a lot of the stories, it's like as soon as they embraced this greater love, that's when all the weird stuff started happening. Also, I'd like to say that not enough people consider the fact that you know, because so many people are like, well, what am I doing here? What's my life purpose? Totally natural question. But learning in and of itself can be a life purpose.
Right. Yeah.
It doesn't have to be any more complicated than that.
I like
We
that.
see a culture now that really people want to be famous to be famous. I mean, that's just the thing, you know. I mean, you know, this is the other thing, and this is what something that one of our teacher talks about, but I think it's so true. She said, you know, she would Sadhvi Bhagavati Saraswati, or Sadhviji as she's known, She talks about this all the time because she does satsang, and she literally gets this question probably once or 3 times a week in a group of satsangs of 7 days a week giving teachings, and people are like, how do I know my purpose? What do I find my purpose? And so it's a normal question, but 50 years ago, nobody asked that question. Nobody asked that question. It wasn't a thing to know your purpose, because your options of your life were very cut and dry. There was very few things. Most people didn't travel outside their own homes, other areas. They didn't travel, more than, I mean, if you knew vaudeville theater, every vaudeville theater was 12 miles apart, because that was like the amount of distance, like that would be like a day's travel by foot, right? So every theater in the vaudeville days was 12 miles apart throughout the whole country of the US. And I don't know about Europe, but just saying. And it was, and their lives were very simple. You would become a teacher, you could become a doctor, a lawyer, maybe you worked as a secretary, or you had very few jobs. You could be the mailman, you worked in your town, you didn't travel, you became a factory worker. That was it. And nobody questioned it. They're like, oh, these are my 10 choices. I'm going to choose that one. And people were very much like, you get married, you have your children, you die. So no one was running around with these deeper questions of who am I, what am I? I mean, of course, there were philosophers, but that's why they were so unique. Now everybody has become a philosopher, and everybody has started to think beyond. And it's because we are so blessed. You have the hierarchy of needs, and the hierarchy of needs is that, that you have safety, you have, food, you have healthcare, you have education. And without any of those things, sorry for my phone ringing, without any of those things, you can't thrive. And they even say, like in my art history class, one of the first things our professor said is, without people's basic needs being met, art and literature and all of the arts could never thrive. You don't see great artwork in societies that are eating hand to mouth. You see it in societies where people have food, they have shelter, they have water, all of these things, and they're an education, but you don't see it before. So even the world doesn't even realize how much every one of us is so incredibly wealthy, with the exceptions of, the obvious things. But we're all now able to philosophize. We're all able to create. We're all able to do these things. But we 50 years ago, even, that was not a thing. It just wasn't. So, and look what we're doing now with AI and all of these things. I mean, there's so much. So the whole idea of purpose now is a really new concept.
Yeah.
It's
Also, something that has very much changed is things that used to be, secret spiritual knowledge are so accessible now.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's a very interesting point.
It's like, I can, things like Tai Chi secrets of like, there are just a million and one things now where it's just like, oh, okay, well, I feel like learning something from Taoism today, and we don't have to go find a sage in a hill, and we're literate, and yeah, it's pretty amazing. And I just read Autobiography of a Yogi, and I know, Max, you love Yogananda.
Mhm.
Yeah, his life and some of the crazy saint stories and crazy stories about telepathy were pretty interesting. And it's just a good book.
So it's funny because, like, when you were talking about just how interesting those stories are, it flashed in my mind, like, back to the Psy games. Gurus kind of represent these sort of spiritual heroes in a way. They represent a manifestation or like an embodiment of these esoteric teachings. And that's what people look to feel motivated to go on their own journey, moving towards whatever growth and evolution they're hoping to attain. And I've often thought to myself, because I grew up in a guru culture, I'm like, let's be done with all this guru stuff. Like, let's get in the post-guru reality where everyone is a guru. Like, when are we going to get there? You know what I mean? But you have like health gurus and wellness gurus, and you have like finance gurus, and you have tech guru. You have a guru in every facet of society. But what it really is just a person that inspires other people. When you really strip away all the details, it really is just a person that represents something that somebody else wants, a level of attainment that somebody else wants. And in its fullness, it's somebody who can offer teachings to help you on that path to get where you're trying to go. But I was just thinking, like with the psi and the telepathic stuff, what this event might be doing, based on what I've heard, is like potentially showing us those examples of those people that have dealt with their random spontaneous psychic occurrences or their little flashes of telepathy, but they've harnessed it and they found a way to bring it into a practical application. And they're going to demonstrate it through like fun games and like little techniques and things like that. But ultimately, they represent a person who has walked the path that maybe some of us want to walk, you know, and like maybe there's something we can learn from them. I don't know. I just think it's cool. Like, I guess there's always going to be that in reality in some way, shape, or form. And even though everyone ultimately has their own inner teacher and their own inner guru, and that's what all the gurus are really teaching us, we do look to each other. We look to each other for inspiration, and that's what makes it fun to be here together, you know?
Oh, absolutely. And, you know, we have these classical stories that are ancient and they continue for a reason because they do inspire us. And the best gurus are the hand that points at the moon and says, don't worship me, you know, I'm just the hand. But yeah, absolutely. Seeing people who are examples of like, hey, this is possible for you too, or look at how cool humanity is. This is a part of you as well. And yeah, all the good gurus, even Jesus, you know, part of his message was, this is who you are. You know, everything that you're positive you're attributing to me, that's who you are underneath it all. So yeah.
Yeah. Max, what do you think? Do you like gurus?
Oh yeah, Allen Ginsberg said you can learn even from a bad guru.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Probably the most, yeah.
Or it was more sophisticated. There is always something to learn even from a bad guru.
Yeah. Yeah. This desire for fame is so, yeah, I mean, it's one thing to see somebody and be like, wow, that's a really cool skill. I think I want to develop that for myself. It's another to have envy or discontent to the point that you want to be someone you're not and be famous. You know, it's like, what is fame going to give you? You know, are you craving like a greater sense of love and connection? Like, what is that empty hole that you're trying to fill with fame?
I think it's a double-edged sword. I think it's like everything. There's a like kind of a good side to it, a positive application and a negative. I think in the most essential sense, people that are drawn to fame want to be of value to the collective. They actually want to be of value, and the fame is a confirmation that they are of value to others. And that's not a bad goal. You know, a great scientist who makes a great discovery that helps so many people will inevitably become famous. And they may not have been chasing fame, but they will be known for what the contribution that they made. The empty side of fame is those who are unable to fulfill their own inner, you know, needs. And so they're looking for external validation, and they're desperate to feel validated, even though they're not really bringing anything to the table. So that's how I see it, at least. I think it can be a driving force. And also I think it's just a cultural phenomena. Like we're drenched in a fame culture right now. It started, probably in a way it really amped up with the golden age of Hollywood, and then it just grew from there into like the tabloid culture, and then we got the internet, and then we got influencer culture, and it's just snowballed out of control. And all of that is brainwashing all of us all the time. Like, you should do this. This is what matters. This is the way to be, So I think we're dealing with a lot of factors here that kind of are destabilizing. But I think there's something just about, I want to matter, like a little kid in the world. Like, I want to do something important that matters to other people. And I don't think that's bad or evil or wrong. And at the very least, it can be a motivating factor that just takes us on another journey that we weren't expecting to go on.
True. And fame can be a wonderful tool for doing things. It's like, I think of Princess Diana. She really leveraged her fame for good in the end. It depends on the person's relationship with the fame.
Yeah, but the Princess Diana is a great example of how fame would honestly be the worst thing that could happen to any of us, because then look what happened to her. It's like, I think a lot of people think they want it and don't realize how horrible it would actually feel. It's fun to run that simulation through your mind sometimes and just be like, oh God, I'm actually so happy that I live a more anonymous life. Thank God I have this peace, thank God nobody's chasing me. Like, that can feel really good, actually.
Yeah, people who are famous often say they're sad because people don't see them. They see the image that the media portrays. And yeah.
Yeah. And we want to be, I think it's a deep human need, or like a soul need, to be seen and known. We want to connect with each other, which is why the internet and even social media has gained so much traction, because we love each other. Like, essentially, people want to play and connect and interact. And so we seek it out through these platforms that exist. And there's an empty side, but there's a heartfelt side also. And there is a lot of good stuff that's happening in those realms. I think it's like there can be a lot of fun and joy and creativity and teaching that happens in on those platforms.
Yeah, something I've seen people with neurodivergence struggle with is the fact that we are an interconnected, interdependent species. We are inherently interdependent. And yeah, I've seen a lot of people struggle with that.
Struggle in what way? They don't want to believe it. They don't understand it.
They are uncomfortable with it because of the difficulty they have connecting and difficulty they have with communication. How they're experiencing the world in terms of socialness. They have that contradiction of being lonely, yet not being able to, they want to connect, but they haven't caught on how to connect. So yeah.
I talked to someone who was neurodivergent, and her big issue was she didn't want to have to, she wanted to have to pretend she was happy when she wasn't happy. She didn't want to have to smile at people, and she didn't want to have to pretend to like them, or not be able to point out what she noticed about their flaws, So, because for her, it was like truth, not being happy is the truth, and not being, not putting on this persona is a
Yeah, and
truth.
it's really hard to be happy in here on this planet. You really are bombarded with conflicting energies. So it's art to.
I mean, I noticed that in Europe, people would go, they would say, I'm not going to smile, I'm not happy. And they were very okay with like not trying to pretend they were, and their thing of Americans is Americans are always smiling, and it's fake. They think we're fake, but they don't also understand that like your entire life growing up, people go, smile, smile, smile. More, get more bees with honey.
It might be the energies of the land. I think the Indians probably were the same. It's not. I mean, it's the same Europeans that came here, English and French, but the energy of the land changed them.
Yeah, but there's just in our society, especially to women, we're told constantly to smile. We're told, Like I remember sitting outside of a grocery store waiting for my mom. I couldn't have been but 12. And I was sitting there, I was just like lost in my thought. And this man said to me, "Smile, honey. You look prettier when you smile." And there's this whole thing of like, at the time, I was just like, okay. But if you think about it, it's like, why do I need to look pretty for you? Why am I expected to, you know, am I not allowed to like have my own resting face, you know?
No, no, it's a societal.
So
When you
maybe
smile, you release certain energy, and if you don't, you kind of break the pattern.
yeah, but it's also not true. That's what like the neurodivergent girl was saying to me. It's not true for me to smile if I'm not happy.
Right.
So people are saying to me, smile, smile, or they'll say, "Oh, are you okay? Are you okay?" And she's just like walking down the street. She's just trying to like get from, her front door to her car or whatever she's trying to do. And people are like, "Oh, are you okay? Are you upset?" Because she's not smiling, And so there's that thing of like, is it just a genuineness of like having to be on as opposed to be to on and have it be acceptable societally that I think that autistic people have, at least the girl that I talked to. So I know she's not the spokesperson for every autistic person, but it was in what I read, I understand that like that is for them a big thing of like, why do I have to, what do they call it? Masking or trying to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
they're atypical, we're typical or whatever. I don't know. They don't want to
Yeah.
be that.
They-
They don't want to
They don't
less
want to be
different than who
neurotypical.
they are, truthfully. But in Europe, people don't smile if they're not happy. They just
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah, I think it's like, when you have to speak a second language, it's tiring.
Mhm.
What I always found really frustrating when I had, was around neurodivergent people all the time was I was able to learn to speak their language. They were not able to learn to speak mine.
Mm.
And once you understand that certain gestures like smiling in certain cultures or bowing, or once you take it from that perspective, then you realize, okay, sometimes when I'm interacting with this person, I need to speak Spanish if I
Right.
want to have that kind of mutual exchange of communication there.
Yeah,
I
it
think
was just what you just alluded to, like when the Japanese were coming to America, we were taught how to greet them, what would be acceptable, what not to say, what to say. We were told if they give us a gift, which they would, do not open it because that's considered rude and greedy. But there was no, and we really had to alter to fit them. And then if you go to Japan, you're also expected to alter and fit them, but there's none of the other. Do you know what I mean? And some cultures are just unwilling to bend in that way. They're like, it's our way or no way. And I feel like for a lot of autistic people, they feel like that too. They feel like I can't bend. Like you go to them, they're not going to alter for you.
Yeah. And when you're learning this process, it feels very much, the neurotypical person can feel very unheard, very unseen. It can generate a lot of negative feeling because they don't feel that they are mutually as equally important in the conversation. There isn't that equality there. Like you aren't considering my feelings to be as equal, even though I can speak your language. That's where yeah.
Yeah. So can you imagine when aliens come?
Uh-huh.
We can't even talk to each other.
That's part of why I talk about this is like, okay, we have to be a little more broad-minded about how we communicate. And we have great examples here within our own cultures and intercultural communication.
And being around, I have autistic friends and people that I work with, and the more you're together, the more you understand each other. So it's like I know with this certain person, they might look sad or like have a basically non-expressive facial expression, but that doesn't, it's my job to not interpret that and put a meaning on it, because it actually doesn't have the same meaning that it would have to people who mask, where a mask defines your personality. So the masking is like, this shape equals this meaning. And our culture is very visual. So the way our bodies look, the way our face shapes look, even the way we dress is all communicating something, whether we like it or not. But the more you spend time with people who are broken outside of that system, the more you learn, like, oh, a new system is emerging. We can all change. I don't have to do all that masking either, because every human is on the spectrum, and every human has learned, like you're saying, when you're a little kid, like, I need you to smile, I need you to do this, that, or the other. It's a nice time in reality for all of us to like break out of all of that. And I think that really will help us with like this potential future where like other beings come with very different cultures. Um, in the book that I'm reading by Whitley Strieber, he's getting into that topic as well. And he's trying to, his whole thing is, I want to demythologize the visitors so that we can start preparing for more of this connection, because he's already having it and he's been having it his whole life. And he wants to help other people to have that if they want to, and to have a meaningful, productive relationship with a very different type of being, genetically, physically, mentally, energetically, motivation wise, and how they communicate. And I just think that's such a cool thing that, like, whether or not that's real, which I think it is real, but even if it wasn't, that can help us in our human life with each other to like think in those ways and practice different things. But Max, I'm gonna have to wrap it up here.
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
Yeah, because it's almost noon
Yes.
in my world.
I was just going to say one last thing. I think just this whole conversation is also a reason why people should learn other languages. They should not just speak their native language, but they should try to learn 2, 3, 4 other languages so that they do, because it does change how you move, especially in that culture, and how you can understand people much more. You know, I even understand, I'll just say, like, for Dutch, like, I speak fluent Dutch, but I understand why Dutch people will choose certain words to say in a sentence when they're speaking English, because there's the connection between their language and this language, you know, and to have a understanding of why someone is saying something a certain way in Hindi or whatever. It just gives you a broader base, also to be empathetic and to be understood and to understand. If you could do one thing to expand your consciousness, you should learn another language.
I completely agree. I lived in Germany for 2 years and taught English as a second language to people from all over the world, and it was fascinating.
Yeah, it is. It's fascinating. Yeah. We have so much at our fingertips that doesn't involve like a lot of froofy things that we could do that are real,
Yeah.
and benefit us on many levels.
Let's wrap up. We need to go.
It's nice talking to you.
Unless you want to continue, we can just leave and you can keep talking. What do you want to do?
I have to head out.
Me too.
Oh, everybody. All right. You guys do blessings. Thank you very much, everybody. Thanks, everyone who watched. You can find us on hucolo.org, and subscribe to invitations. We send invites by email. And the link to this specific webinar is actually posted there, so you can come to Zoom. Can you say something?
I think a good mantra for right now would be Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu, which means may all the beings and all the worlds with an S, be happy and be free. So Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu.
Adriana?
That is my basic Krishna Priya. That's the basic Buddhist prayer that I say at least twice a day, just said slightly different. I and all my kind mothers, as infinite as space, take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. May all beings have happiness and all the causes of happiness. May all beings be free from suffering and all the causes of suffering. Om Mani Padme Hum.
Yeah.
That's the basic Buddhist prayer.
I will do my chant again. Let's see how it works. I will let Shakti, can you wrap it up somehow?
Well, I just wanted to say thank you to all of you for a great conversation. And Max, I hope that your trip that you've been on takes a fun turn soon and you get that feeling of flow that you're looking for one way or the other. And it was really nice to meet you, Krishna Priya, and good to see you as always, Adriana. And I am grateful to be just learning from different people and sharing together. So thank you all.
Thank you very much.